Welcome the guys to first video of this course after the introduction. So now we're gonna start taking a look with you one by one the which possible moves that black can go. After the third move, white plays bishop f4. Well, as I showed in the introduction, there are many possible combinations here black can go. I mean, it's not like only one mainline move and there are 5-6 sidelines, but there are so many moves that can be considered as a mainline. That's a bishop f5, a6, e6, g6, like all the normal moves that black can play, and that's like a human moves that anybody can go for. But in this video, we're gonna take a look with you how we should play if the opponent goes the third move, pawn c5. Well, I would say this move a little bit high quality move. What I mean by high quality, like it depends with whom you're playing. Like let's just say if you're playing on a League Chess or Chess.com around 1700-1800 level chess player, facing this move, I would say it's not a common, because the reason for that, c5 kind of looks like the pawn sacrifice that black is doing at first sight, but the problem is that we cannot take really this pawn, because first of all we might lose the center, and this pawn they can get back, you know, in just 1-2 moves. That's why we're not gonna actually take the pawn, but at first sight black might think that they're sacrificing the pawn. So if the person with black facing the Jobava London for the first time, playing this pawn move and playing this pawn can be considered as like just giving the pawn for free. But again, it's a game of chess. Even at those level, you can face this opening, I mean this move, but just let you know, those level players sometimes have no idea why c5 can be played. So as I'm saying, c5 is a move like you can face a lot above maybe 1800 level. It's a FIDE or chess.com. And the person who actually plays this move, they have some sort of the idea, the knowledge behind this move, because they are playing that move so confidently. So basically c5 they play just to put the pressure to the center, the d4 pawn, and that's why we play after that they move e3. Well, after e3, black can go to take this central pawn, or they can go in different direction, like by playing a6. Well, a6 is, what's the main idea behind a6? It's basically the black is not letting to go our knight to b5. Well, in this perspective, we can actually just simply again make the development, knight f3 and bishop e2 and castle, just playing the classical style. Or we can go into the more interesting variation, which is d takes c5. This time we are totally fine to go d takes c5, because why? There is no d4 move that black can go. Because back in 2 moves ago, if he took this pawn, I mean black could have played simply e6, they can take back, or they can go d4, which we can face the counterattack, which wasn't possible like 1 move ago. But after a6, since we already played e3, we take the pawn. d4 is not possible because we have the pawn on e3 that is stopping the threat of the black. So black here simply continues by playing e6. The idea is very clever. I mean, it's very clear. So they want to just take the pawn back that they gave up. But here, why I'm saying we have the interesting variation. I mean, one more time again, we can go make the simple development. But instead of that, what we're gonna do? Why not to defend this pawn? I mean, yeah, in most of the variations, it doesn't make sense to defend this sort of pawns. Why? Because it could be kind of a waste of time. And the reason for that, it's like a hanging pawn. And basically, it's located in the opponent's territory right now, which makes for the opponent to attack that easy. And for us, the second side, to defend it a little bit harder. So we go knight a4. Okay, the idea is very clear. What we are doing, we are just going to defend this pawn. So basically we have the extra pawn and we are trying to defend as much as we can. But yeah, black can take this back pawn by playing queen a5 check, which looks totally normal because now they have 2 pieces attacking this pawn. We go c3 by blocking this check. Black takes bishop c5. And after this, we're gonna take the bishop on c5 as well. And basically here we are getting 2 pair of bishops. But you might wonder, okay, once they play bishop c5 move, yeah, isn't the b4 is possible? Well, at first sight, it makes sense, kinda, we made a double attack. But the problem about the move, we can just lose the material, because bishop b4, c takes b4, and after queen b4 check, we cannot really block with the queen because of what? The knight is hanging. The move that we can go is only the king e2, but after bishop d7, black has a total control of the game, and it's basically our knight is currently trapped. It cannot go anywhere. At the same time, the bishop b5 check is also really dangerous. Our king gets in the middle of the center, which gives a lot of opportunities for our opponent to attack our king. That is why back in that move they play bishop c5, b4 is not possible, because there's a very clear direct threat to our king. That's why we simply play knight c5, queen takes c5, and we just focus on the rest of all the effort into the development. And by the way, this position, the game comes from by white playing Magnus Carlsen and by black Wesley So back in 2017 in Paris. They played this game in a blitz time control. Well, in this current position, as you can see, this is a very standard position of the Jobava London. Well, it also kind of looks like very similar to the normal classic London, well, without the pawn. And the main advantage here for white has is that two pair of bishops. That gives a complete good advantage for the rest of the game. It's very clear for what reason black might play e6, it's kind of to stop some knight b5 ideas, but here the main line is just taking the pawn on d4, white takes also back with e takes d4. And again, one more time here, black has a very multiple continuation. One more time, the a6 considered to be one of the mainline moves, because simply again, this stops the knight b5, the main idea. Besides that, the black can try immediately develop their bishop to g4, directly hitting our queen and making the development in a quick way. And also they can just play e6, which again looks very classic. Okay, let's start first by the move. What if they go bishop g4? Okay, they develop the bishop with the tempo, and it looks very nice on the g4 for black. Well, we can continue here by playing knight f3 or something bishop e2, which looks also fine. But again, when I was creating this course, analyzing this variation, I tried to include more variations where there are more tactical chances, like interesting positions that you can get. I mean, of course, we can play knight f3 and bishop e2. These variation also looks fine. But if there is a more interesting variation than this, why not to choose that, yeah? And the interesting move here we're gonna go is playing f3. Yes, this is not like usual move that you're gonna play in your games. Because why? Because it's a pawn move of the king side, and when you castle, it can kind of cause some sort of weaknesses and threats, since this diagonal can be opened. But this move has a purpose, and also by playing this, we are not kind of saying, okay, I'm gonna castle short, because there are anytime moment we can long castle, which is also possible. We gonna choose depending on how the black plays, whether to castle short or castle long. So after that, black can go bishop d7, or they can also go bishop f5 move. Let's first take a look what if they go bishop d7. Bishop d7 clearly makes sense what they're trying to stop. It's like once we play knight b5, they are trying to stop our knight move by taking with the bishop. So here one more time again, black has two continuations. They can take the knight, which is they're losing here two pair of bishops, or they can go to knight a6 variation. Well, let's take a look what if they take our knight. If they take our knight, we're gonna take back with the bishop, knight e6, all the classic stuff, and then we're gonna play here just c3, controlling the position, holding the position as well. Well, the reason we played c3 because if it was a black's turn here, they're gonna have this sort of double attack. And if there are so many threats for the black, it's very easy for them. So that's why by playing c3, we are already removing and defending our undefended pieces. Well, black can play here e6, and after that we can just go queen d2. The position, I would say, is slightly better for white. Again, there is one reason for that. It's a two pair of bishops. At the same time, our pawn majority, especially f3, is doing great job right now. The idea is just what we are doing is stopping the opponent, the knight, not letting them to have this knight very strong in the center. Well, as you can see, the rest of the plan for white can be very simple. It's just castling, and then we can bring the rook here, and then we can just get the knight to g5, bishop g5, and slowly we can do something on the king side of the black. Okay, we just saw the variation where black can take our knight on b5 to stop the threat, but in exchange we got there the two pair of bishops, which is totally fine, the position for the white. And instead of after knight b5 taking our knight, they can also go to a different direction, which is it's a knight a6 move, where the purpose is clear to stop our the threat on c7. And one thing you need to try to understand in Jobava London system, why we actually go to knight b5. Well, you might think, okay, this is like we are threatening the fork. Yeah, I mean, that's basic idea, which we are threatening the fork, but of course the opponent realizes that and tries to stop. But the main idea is to have this knight here to make this knight kind of removing from the game. You know, that's the main idea actually. Because right now, if you compare the current standing position of the white knight with the black knight, like if we compare 1-to-1, of course, anybody can say this knight is better than this. Why? Because this knight doing much more job than the knight in the corner. That's our one of the main ideas why we go in the Jobava like that way, to make this knight kinda out of the game. And at the same time, there would be some moments, yeah, maybe they can kick out our knight, not in this scenario because there is no the pawn on c that can kick out. And another scenario why the advantage for white, the knight in the corner, and second one would be they will spend some time again, you know, to get back this knight into the game. That's actually two main ideas why we go immediately bishop f4 knight b5 idea if they let us. Basically, the knight in the corner is out of the game. Even they will try to figure out to get in the game, they will spend more time than the normal case. That's the main idea. Okay, once they play knight a6, it's a simple continuation for white. We just continue supporting the idea. It's a4 move. Well, now even if they take with the bishop, we can even go now with the pawn. Of course, with the bishop is still possible, but with the pawn it looks even stronger in the opponent's camp. Well, after a4, the most natural move I would say it's for black to playing e6, because the position is also still simple, but white have a more dominance and control because of the active piece development. Well, after e6, we also now play c3, making first of all bishop b4 check and kind of this trading impossible. At the same time, when the bishop is there, the knight is free to go. That's why we also not let that happen. And at the same time, c3 is just helps us to support our pieces with each other. And after c3, black has like a two directions, and the most correct direction here would be queen b6. Well, you might say, wait, they played e6, why not just bishop e7, yeah? Well, of course, bishop e7 looks good, but the problem is that black can lose again two pair of bishops. Why? Because after knight d6 check, black is kind of forced to take our knight. Well, if they don't take, I mean, first of all, their pawn is hanging, their king is losing also the safety, which is not the good case. So basically, we take the knight, we take the bishop, we also take back, and after queen b6, just bishop a3. Again, the very good position, very pleasant position for white, having two pair of bishops, no weaknesses. And basically, we should not worry about this, since these pieces can be just developed in two moves and we can castle. Regarding the development, there is also no problems at all. And here, I would say this position should be around +1. It's basically two pair of bishops, and e5 square, the central square, is also weak. And maximum right now black can try is a long castle, but I don't think that will pay off in this current position. So that's why after c3, it's better first to start kind of something queen b6. Well, the idea is clear. It's not something they trying to put the pressure to this pawn. They just want to play bishop e7 and short castle, making the knight d6 not possible. Well, in this case, we're just gonna play a5 with the tempo, and after queen d6, we just go bishop d3. And here what happened is that, yeah, like we are not really stopping bishop e7 move, but in the meantime, they lost two tempos with the queen. Like, why I mean by tempos, because we played a5 without losing the time. We also played bishop d3 without losing the time. And another a little bit problematic stuff for black, the placement of the queen. I mean, the queen is not really doing anything there, you know, like it's blocking the bishop. Again, in the future, black should spend one more move to play with the queen, so they can free up the bishop and etc, etc. So the placement of the queen, again, wrong, and it gives just better development for white one more time. Well, in this position, I would like to stop my analysis, because Again, the one simple advantage white has is like a space advantage. Look the pieces of white and look the pieces of black at the same time. And look what sort of like a control we have with the white perspective. Yeah, first one we have here is advantage is like a space advantage, more control we have with the white. And the second thing is that like based on the piece placement, black pieces are so passive. All the minor pieces, very passive. Comparing the white, all of them almost active besides the knight, but in just one move we can also activate this knight into the game. Okay, second direction they can go after the move pawn f3 is to bishop f5. Well, this move is a little bit worse than bishop d7. Why? Because it makes a knight on b5 is very strong. Why I'm saying that? Because look, there is no kind of piece that can capture our knight, which makes a knight to stay in that square forever. And there is also no c pawn, so they can kick out after some move. It's also not possible. And in the current position, a6 is not possible. I mean, the idea is clear because of why? Because there is just simple fork. So the only move that black can try to stop is by knight a6, and we just play c3. Completely, again, controlling the game and removing some sort of possible checks. Well, now in the current position, you might say, okay, isn't that better that bishop on f5 is just instead of d7? Yes, it looks like that for the third side, because of course bishop on f5 is active. But the problem here for black is how to follow up. It looks like basically black should develop here dark square bishop, and they can do that into two directions, g6 and e6, which looks normal at first sight, but now we're gonna see why black gonna have some problems when the bishop on f5. Okay, let's start first. What if they play with the g6 move, right? I mean, they're fianchettoing the bishop. It looks totally fine. Nothing is wrong. But the one problem about this move, there is a very nice move by white, which helps us to start the attack very quickly. Queen e2 move. And why queen e2 is so like a smart move here? Why? Because after bishop g7, it just gives us opportunity of this sort of check because of the pin. And basically, if the black moves, we can just take the pawn and we can take the knight. We are extra material. And the only move that black can try to stop this check by playing bishop e6. Any other move is just losing for black. I mean, it's already a terrible position for black. I mean, it's probably above 1.5 plus. And they cannot also play here e6. I mean, the reason is clear. The bishop will get trapped. So the only move is bishop e6. Well, after that, what we do? It might look like black stopped this thread, you know, knight d6 check, because there's a blockade on the e file by black's bishop. Well, we just continue putting the pressure on this. Playing knight h3. Yeah, what we are doing by this move, we are saying, okay, come on, let's capture. Oops, sorry, something happened. So we are saying, yeah, come on, let's capture our knight. Well, if they take our knight, we just take back. Okay, for a moment, our pawn structure is ruined, but we don't care because we're not gonna castle short. But the main idea here, what we got, two pair of bishops. Again, another thing we got, okay, this thread is coming. They might play maximum e6, but that's already just a bad position for black. And we can just go here h4. The future attack is very ready for white. And after that, in a normal game, I think it was a game between Grandmaster Chernyshov with Konstantin with the white, and against Overbeck Thurston. Back 15 years ago, they played this position, and black played here the bishop g7 move, and white went for knight g5, queen b6, guarding the bishop, long castle, short castle, knight d6, f takes e6, and after rook e1, we just have on the board +2 position with having two pair of bishops again one more time, and another very nice winning advantage. Just black has just hanging the pawn that white can take in a few moves, which gives a clearly winning position for white. Okay, this is a scenario. What if the black played g6? I mean, this is quickly way that black lost his advantage. Of course, better move here for black would be rather than g6 is to play the e6 move, developing the bishop with other direction. Well, if they play this move, now, as I said, why having the bishop on f5 is wrong, it gives us simply quick attack chances with the white. We go g4. We are not losing any time, we are not wasting any move. It's happening with the tempo. bishop g6, h4, another second pawn move. We are not losing any time because the threat is on h5 and black cannot ignore this. They go h6. So we see basically for no reason, because of the bishop was on f5, we are winning 2 pawn tempos. And after that we go knight h3, simply now preparing the materials, the pieces to start our attack. We haven't started the attack yet. I mean, yeah, we kind of push the pawns, but still we are in preparing mode. Black can play bishop e7. We go queen d2, adding the queen slowly. They can castle. We go h5, bishop h7, and rook g1. I mean, the pieces are almost ready to start the attack. Basically, the thread what we are right now threading is something g5 and then g takes h6. And the attack can be very strong since already like 4 pieces are completely focusing on the attack. Regarding the king, we should not worry at all because it all takes one move to long castle, so it's not the problematic at all. And it's just a very already above +1, I would say, this position. And the idea is very simple, guys. We just start the attack, and our attack became so quick. Why? Because we just won 2 tempos for no reason. That made the whites attack pretty fast and strong. Alright, we just covered with you the 5th of bishop g4, and now let's take a look. What if just black plays here the pawn move e6? Well, this move is actually not that common, but anyways, there's a one game between Jobava London against Igor Kovalenko. They played back like 9 years ago, and here simply white goes again knight b5, the same idea, knight a6, and playing the pawn c3. Well, I would say, guys, why we usually play these c3 moves earlier, because not let that black to make this sort of bishop maneuver, and since the bishop is there, they will control the c7 square and they can get back the knight to the game, because this square being defended at that moment by bishop. And that's why here playing c3 is kind of strong move, not letting the black to come bishop b4 and freeing the knight from a6. So black can play here bishop e7, it's just normal development for both of the sides. And again, this was a game between the Jobava London and Igor Kovalenko, and here white won the game. In that game, Kovalenko took the knight, but after a takes b5, it's just like a +2 position on the board. And yeah, again, 2 pair of bishops. As you can see there, guys, like there are so many moments that black can actually would be forced to trade the bishop for the knight, giving the 2 pair of bishops a lot of times for white. Well, even if they don't capture here our knight, I mean, again, just compare these 2 knights with the white knight on b5 and the black knight on a6. The black knight should stay forever, you know, like this square, in order not let the knight c7 to happen. So yeah, here white is totally fine, +1 position, I would say. Okay, so e6 we covered, and then we go to mainline variation. Again, after e takes e5, they go a6, not letting this sort of headache happen for black. So after a6, we go knight f3, and again giving some possible combinations for black. The normal one is of course playing knight 6, and another one is again playing bishop g4. Well, this is a very standard move. In most of the opening variations, we can say this bishop g4, pinning the queen. And when they do that, we just play h3 with the tempo. And after that, they can take our knight, or they can retreat back their bishop. First, let's take a look what if they take our knight. Well, in this scenario, again, we simply getting 2 pair of bishops. Knight c6, long castle, e6. Well, this is a Jobava London, and in most often times, if you have the opportunity to start the attack, why not to do it, yeah? So we just go g4 because the developments already happened. We castled the king and we got a 2 pair of bishops as usual. So we go g4 to start the attack, to put some headache on the black's king side. Black can play bishop d6. We just keep supporting our attack by playing h4. And black plays here rook c8, one of the mainline moves. And then here we can go bishop d6, or we can go to g5. I mean, this move was being played by Andrew Tang against Grandmaster Michelishvili Mihail, and this was basically, the game was finished as a draw after like this sort of continuation. And again, I mean, it's a very classy position we have on the board. There are no, of course, crazy tactics on the board, but you might but just looking to position, you might say that white is better because we have some sort of extra advantage, like extra space and the bishop on f1. Comparing this bishop with the knight is kind of already out of the game. I wouldn't say this like white is better or white is winning, but white is slightly better, and those small advantages, that's what giving for white slightly better position. And now it's all in your hands just to follow up, to make the even good moves for the rest of the game, because it's the chess of the game, you know, like here in this course, I'm covering with you all the opening moves, but again, most often times, you know, the result depends from the middle game. But again, my job is here for you to get the better position after the opening. No, that's my goal. And the rest, yeah, as usual, is in your hands. Okay, now what if they retreat back their bishop to h5? One thing you need to understand, the guys, there could be some moments for you to play the g4 with the tempo, and most often times it will approve itself. You know, it will approve itself. By that, what I'm saying is that you can start the attack as soon as possible, and yeah, you should take some things into the consideration. Your king will not get weak, but most often times, like playing this pawn move g4s kinda will not that scary, especially in Jobava London, because there is no kinda counterattack immediately by black. At the same time, anytime long casting would be possible. Even there are some positions that you can put the king in the center, that's safe, or there are some moments where you can do just casting by hand. So here after bishop h5 we go g4, bishop g6 and knight e5. The threat is very clear. We are going for this light square bishop. Black plays e6, but of course here we're not gonna take the bishop, which we can do actually to pair of bishops, but then this can become a little bit of weakness because our goal is actually very different here. And at the same time here, the knight on e5 is pretty stronger than bishop, than white to trade it, yeah? So we go h4. The idea is to play h5 with the white and then play f3, making this bishop to get trapped. And of course, in this position, the only good continuation for black is knight e4. Well, I have to say one thing, finding this move is not that easy at all during the game. I mean, if your opponent is really good or he has a knowledge, he can find this move. But I would say out of 10 games, maybe 2-3 people maximum can play this move. Because the normal consideration here might be the h6, h5, but once they do that, we just take the bishop and black's pawn structure just getting completely ruined. And at the same time, again, we have the two pair of bishops in our hands, and we can go anytime bishop d3, queen e2, and long castle, so do not worry about the safety of the king. But yeah, what if your opponent is really strong or they have the idea how to play correctly? But anyways, this is already +1 position, guys. If the opponent knows his stuff well, he will probably not go to this variation, but even they go, you have to know how to follow up. Where after knight d4 we just go h5, they take the knight, we take bishop e4, f3. As usual, we made this 1, 2, 3 pawn moves with the tempo without spending a single move. It's because of all this light square bishop. And the only correct move here for black is f6. We take the bishop, they will take back, and then we'll take the pawn as well. And here taking this pawn doesn't make sense because black is losing the king safety as well, and that becomes also hanging the pawn. And white will play the rest of the game with extra pawn. The only good move and the normal contention I would say here for black is to play queen a5. The threat is to take the pawn on c3. We just play queen d2. Another important thing you need to follow when you're playing the Jobava London system. If you have like two options to go crazy or to go simple but have the control, right? So to go crazy, what I mean, you're seeing some forcing tactic which looks cool, but it's crazy because there are so many variations and it's a little bit unclear if you go that direction. And the second way is that, yeah, maybe you will not get a good advantage as the first one, the variation crazy tactic one, but still you will get advantage. But the most important thing what you should do in the second one is that you will have a control and you will not give the counter attack for black. I mean, your opponent. What I mean, let me show you in the normal example. Here, it might think that e takes d5 can be as a correct move, but it's so tactical because black can go this direction, black can go some tactics. No, it's a full of tactics and it's a little bit unclear position. Or second way, why let this happen to go crazy headache stuff, right? Like for why black led to go queen c3 and do some other stuff? We can just stop by playing queen d2. We are not considering even e takes d5. So as I'm saying, e takes d5 is a little bit crazy. Maybe it gives a little bit better advantage than queen d2. But queen d2 is good for what? We are not letting the black to do any counterattack chances. You know, that's what I mean by my words. So that's why if you have two options between crazy tactic but a little bit unclear position, or a little bit less advantage but still control and no counterattack for your opponent, go for second direction, as we are doing here. We are just playing queen d2, not going for this e takes d5 stuff. Black can play knight c6. Now we can go for that because our pawn is on c3 is not hanging. Bishop d3 will play, black plays bishop c5, and here, as I said, there are some moments that you need to castle, there are some moments you have to castle by hand. And of course, here, castling long, it's a very terrible, it's immediately losing. Castling short is also not possible because that's the reason why black played bishop c5. But anyways, there is no problem, we can just do castling by hand and bring the king to g2. In the current moment, the engine says that white has plus 1.5 advantage. And yeah, it has a very many reasons. First of all, we are playing with an extra pawn. Secondly, the king might seem exposed, but again, there is no direct attack to our king. That's why it's completely safe, the king on g2. So another advantage is that extra pawn we have is a passer, and especially we have a two pair of bishops. They will make this job more easier. Okay, we understood how we should play against bishop h5. But what if they go after h3, bishop f5? It's again simple. It's like we are making the transposition, so bishop h5 variation by winning a tempo. Okay, finally we come to main line where black plays knight e6. And we just go knight e5. Another thing, guys, I want to remind you that when you're learning the opening, it's not you have not to learn move by move, but you have to learn the possible ideas. And I mean, what I mean by ideas, there could be some moments, let's just say you learn this variation, you memorized, but it's not like you learned right now and you'll get that in your next game. It's not like that. In chess, it doesn't work like that. In chess, that's why you need a memory. First, you will learn something, and maybe after some moment, maybe after 1 month, maybe after 2 months, that you can face what you learned. And at that moment, you need the memory, but again, move by move, it's not that easy. That's why it's better to remember the ideas, possible ideas. For example, how you can memorize this idea when they play the third move c5, you might say something like that. If they go to c5 with the third move c5 against Jobava London, and they go to main line with the a6, knight c6, my plan is to trade my f3 knight with c6 so I can create the weakness on c6. That's how you can conclude each opening variation. Like that way, maybe you cannot memorize move by move, but at least you know what you should go for, you know? One sentence, you can conclude what's the main idea against each move. That's my suggestion for you. So yeah, when we play knight e5, the opponent can go here into two directions one more time. They can simply play bishop d7, not let their pawn structure to get ruined. Well, in that case, we just play bishop e2. One bad thing about this move, bishops should stay here forever to defend that knight in order not to let the kind of create for black the backward pawn and isolate pawn as well. Well, after bishop e2, black can play e6. We go castle, bishop e7, a4, castle, rook e1. And I would say on the board, we have a playable position one more time. Again, slightly advantage for white because of black has really passive setup on the board. But that's why after knight e5, what if they go just normal e6 stuff, the main line? Well, in that case, they take, and another key move. So far, the key move was knight e5, knight 6, and one more key move is that you need to write down the knight a4 move. Because we don't usually go with a knight like that early. And the main idea is we want to kind of stop the c5 move, and at the same time, occupy ourselves that square. So after knight a4, black can go bishop d6, or black can go also another direction, which is simply bishop e7. Well, in that case, we just also go bishop d3 and then castle. We also castle. So the knight on a4 is actually not out of the game, but it's simply controlling and stopping the black c5 move. Instead of bishop e7, they can go to trade our dark square bishop. So after knight a4, they can go bishop d6. Well, in that case, we just take. They will take as well, and we go bishop d3. Yes, not crazy advantage for white, but again, there are some weaknesses that we can target on later on the game. So after bishop d3, there are two follow-ups for black. It's basically they can go for castle or they can go e5, well, where it's quickly kind of trading. And again, we are heading to endgame, which having again slight advantage because of this pawn structure that black has. So after bishop d3, they can go e5 or they can go castle, where again at the end black's idea is e5, but this time there are not many trades and still it's a middle game where white again can try to trade the queens. Eventually, most of the variations I would say in Jobava London system might end like this way. Kinda it looks very equal, but again, there are always targets. Since each opening that I might analyze, there are some targets that you can play on for later of the game. So keep in mind in this setup, this might be your target. It's not your like a main target that you should focus on, but it's time to time. For example, you can trade the rooks, and then slowly, you can bring the king to the weak side of the black. That's what I meant by when you have the target. When the opponent has a weakness that you can target later on. With that, we are concluding with you the third move c5, and I will see you guys in our next videos.